I thought my wife's closeness with my younger brother was just a phase. He was always the golden child, charming, broke, and somehow always forgiven. But when I uncovered what they'd really been doing behind my back, I didn't just lose a marriage, I lost my whole family. Story. I'll try to keep this as organized as possible, but I'm still not sure how I feel about all of it. Some parts still don't feel real. I've 35M been married to my wife Megan 34F for 7 years, together for 10. We don't have kids by choice. Both of us wanted to focus on building careers, traveling, and just enjoying our time together. We weren't perfect, but we were solid. That's what I used to think anyway. Megan got along great with my family, maybe a little too great with my younger brother, Kyle, 28M. He's always been the charming one. Life of the party. The kind of guy who somehow crashes on your couch for a weekend and stays for 2 months. Over the past few years, he's bounced between jobs, apartments, and relationships. My parents always bailed him out. He's just trying to figure it out. That's the family line. I was the stable one. The one with the mortgage, the retirement account, and the boring marriage. Kyle, he was the fun one. When Megan would talk to him, she'd light up in ways I hadn't seen in a while. Laugh at every joke, defend him when I complained about him being irresponsible. I told myself she just liked his energy, that it was nothing. That was my first mistake. About 6 months ago, Kyle crashed at our house again. Said he needed a week or two while figuring out his next move. Megan said she didn't mind. In fact, she said, "It'll be fun having someone else around." That sentence stuck with me. Week 1 turned into week 3, then 5. I started noticing little things. He and Megan stayed up late after I went to bed, watching movies, drinking wine, just talking. One night I came down to get water and saw them sitting on the back porch. Her feet were in his lap. She pulled them away the second she saw me. They both acted like I'd imagined it. I finally confronted Megan, calmly. "Is there something going on between you and Kyle?" She laughed. Actually laughed. "You're being paranoid," she said. "He's your brother." I wanted to believe her, desperately, so I did. I told myself it was all in my head, until I found the phone. Kyle left his phone on the kitchen counter one morning. I wasn't snooping, I swear. It lit up with a notification. M. Last night was risky, but worth it. I froze. Then I did something I'm not proud of. I opened the messages. It was a hidden thread under a fake name in his contacts. Marie. It wasn't Marie, it was Megan. They were using a second texting app. The whole thread was filled with innuendo, jokes, and flat-out admissions. He doesn't even suspect a thing. "I dreamt about you again last night. Next time, lock the door. That was close." I felt sick. I took screenshots, emailed them to myself, then put his phone back like nothing happened. That night, I didn't say a word. I couldn't. I was too angry, too shattered to think straight. I started planning. I didn't confront them right away. I wanted to. Every time I looked at her, I felt like screaming. But part of me needed proof that couldn't be denied, something that couldn't be twisted or gaslit, something final. So I bought a small camera, one of those motion-activated ones you can hide in plain sight. I set it up in our guest room, where Kyle had been staying. I disguised it inside a cheap alarm clock and aimed it toward the door and bed. It didn't take long. 3 nights later, while I pretended to fall asleep early, I heard them whispering downstairs. Then silence. About 30 minutes passed. The next morning, I checked the footage. There they were. Megan slipping into Kyle's room in the middle of the night, wearing my old hoodie. Him pulling her in like it was nothing. Like this had happened before. Like this was normal. They didn't even say anything. They just kissed. Slowly. Like a couple. Not like two people sneaking around like they were already used to being together. I felt like I was watching a version of my life implode from the outside. That was the moment I stopped being heartbroken. I was furious. Here's what I did next. I didn't confront them. Not yet. I acted normal, nicer even, like I was turning a corner emotionally. I told Megan I had a work retreat that weekend, 3 days out of town. She kissed me on the cheek and said she'd miss me. The second I left the house, I drove 2 blocks over, parked, and waited. That night, around 10 p.m., I watched Kyle's car pull into the driveway. Megan wasn't home yet. She came in 10 minutes later. I waited until all the lights went off. Then I waited more. The next morning, I walked into my house at 7 a.m., quietly. I didn't slam doors, didn't yell. They were both in the kitchen. Her face went pale. Kyle tried to act casual. "You're home early," he said, chewing cereal. I smiled, looked at Megan, and I said one sentence. "You're both going to regret this." Then I went upstairs. That day, I moved $9,000 out of our joint savings into a private account. Not all of it, just enough to rattle her. I contacted a lawyer, laid it all out, sent him the screenshots, the footage, everything. Asked him to draft divorce papers and advise me on how to deal with a situation involving infidelity and a live-in family member. He told me to keep collecting everything. Keep a log. Play it smart. So I did. Meanwhile, Megan was starting to get nervous. She asked why I was acting distant again, said she missed me, that I'd been pushing her away. I asked her if there was anything she wanted to confess. She blinked, thought about it, then shook her head. "No," she said. "I think we're okay." I knew then that she was going to lie until the end. A week later, I served her the papers on her birthday. I handed them to her at dinner in front of Kyle and my parents. My mom screamed. My dad looked like he'd seen a ghost. Megan opened the envelope slowly, thinking it was a gift. She read the first line and started shaking. She looked at me, then at Kyle, and said, "You didn't." I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "I know. I've known. I watched you walk into his room. I've read your messages. You wore my hoodie." Kyle stood up like he was going to say something. My dad told him to sit back down. He didn't. He walked out. Megan didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just folded the papers and said, "I guess this was coming anyway." That one hurt more than I thought it would. Megan didn't come home that night. She didn't call, didn't text. She just left with nothing but her purse. Kyle was already gone. He packed his things within an hour, apparently called an Uber, and vanished like a coward. My parents stayed the night. My mom cried more than I did. She kept asking, "Why didn't you say anything sooner?" But honestly, I didn't know what to say. How do you explain to your parents that your wife and cousin betrayed you under your own roof? The next few days were silent. The house felt hollow, but in a weird way, cleaner, like the lies had walked out with them. Then came the real storm, Megan's family. Her mom called me and yelled, said I humiliated her daughter, said I was cruel for serving the papers in front of everyone. I didn't even raise my voice. I just said, "Ask her who Kyle is and ask her where she slept the night I left for my trip." She hung up. Uh, but the message must have sunk in because a few hours later, Megan texted me for the first time. "I think I made a mistake. Can we talk?" That was it. I didn't reply. A few days later, I saw Kyle again, at a gas station of all places. He was wearing a hoodie, same brand as the one Megan wore that night. Might have even been mine. He had the nerve to try small talk, like none of this happened. "Hey man," he said, "you good?" I just looked at him. "You slept with my wife." He sighed, like I was being dramatic. "It wasn't supposed to be like that." I asked, "What was it supposed to be? A secret fling until I caught you? Or were you two planning on playing house once I was out of the picture?" He didn't answer. He just stood there, looking embarrassed. I got in my car and drove off. I didn't trust myself to stay calm. A few weeks passed. The divorce moved quickly. No kids, thankfully. We had to split the house, but I pushed to keep it and bought her out of her share. She didn't fight me. I think she was too ashamed to. People talk. Our friends started hearing things. One couple, close friends of both Megan and me, cut ties with her entirely. They said they felt betrayed by association. I'll admit I took quiet satisfaction in that, but I wasn't totally okay. I still had nights where I questioned everything. Did I miss red flags? Did I push her into his arms without knowing it? Was I blind or just stupid? One night I found an old photo on my phone. Me, Megan, and Kyle at a family barbecue. Megan was holding my hand. Kyle had his arm around my shoulder. They both smiled like everything was perfect. That image haunted me more than the video. I started therapy. At first, it felt weird, like I was talking to a stranger about things I hadn't even told my best friends. But eventually, it helped. The therapist said something that stuck with me. "You didn't break the relationship. They did. You're just cleaning up the mess." I started working out again, joined a local climbing gym, took a short solo trip to Colorado. It wasn't about healing or being dramatic. I just needed distance from everything that reminded me of her. About 2 months after she left, Megan sent me a long message. She said she'd moved in with her sister, that Kyle ghosted her after 2 weeks, said he wasn't who she thought he was. She asked me if we could have coffee. I left her on read. 3 weeks passed since Megan's last message. She didn't try again. No texts, no calls, nothing. But I kept seeing signs of her around, like leftovers from a life that didn't belong to me anymore. A cardigan in the closet, her favorite mug in the back of the cabinet. I even found one of her hair ties under the bed when I was vacuuming. I threw all of it into a box and dropped it at her sister's place. Didn't ring the bell, just left it by the door and drove off. I think that was the moment I started to feel free, like I had finally cut the last thread tying me to her. Around this time, something unexpected happened. I got invited to a cousin's wedding on Kyle's side of the family. At first, I was like, no way. But then I found out he wasn't invited. Word had gotten around. Apparently, his own brother didn't want him there. I decided to go. It was weird, walking into a room full of people who used to know me as a couple. People looked at me like I'd just come back from war. Some gave me sad smiles. A few offered awkward hugs. But there was one moment that stuck with me. Kyle's mom pulled me aside. She said, "I raised 2 sons. I'm ashamed of one of them now." Then she handed me a small envelope. Inside was a picture of me and Kyle when we were kids. We were maybe 10 years old, both holding water guns, covered in mud and laughing. She said, "Keep it. Just remember the boy he used to be, before all this." I don't know why, but that hit harder than anything else, because somewhere in the mess of it all, I had forgotten he was my best friend once. Anyway, life went on. I wasn't exactly dating, but I wasn't hiding either. A friend from the gym asked me to join a trivia night. That turned into drinks, then a hike the week after. She wasn't anything like Megan, quieter, more thoughtful. We didn't talk about our pasts, not yet, but I wasn't rushing anything. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I had to explain myself to anyone. I just existed, and that was enough. Shh, update. It's been about 8 months now. I'm writing this from my new place. I finally sold the old house. Couldn't stand how every corner had a memory I didn't ask for. This one's smaller, quieter, but it feels like mine, like a clean slate. Megan and I haven't spoken since she asked to meet for coffee. She never followed up, and I never reached out. Kyle, last I heard, he moved out of state. Nobody really talks about him anymore. He became one of those names people mention in whispers. You remember what Kyle did, right? Funny how quickly people become cautionary tales. A few of my old friends told me he's been trying to start over, whatever that means. I don't really care. As for me, I'm doing better than I ever thought I would be. I didn't expect healing to look like this. It wasn't one big moment. It was 100 small ones, taking a walk without checking my phone, laughing at a dumb show, sleeping through the night, saying no to things that drained me. The girl from the gym, her name's Leah. We're still seeing each other. Slowly, no pressure. She knows a little about what happened, but I haven't gone into the details. She never asks. She just lets me be who I am, and that's more than enough. One last thing. Reddit, you really came through. I read every comment on my original post. Some were funny, some brutally honest, some weirdly profound, but they all helped. A few people said I was cold for what I did at dinner. Maybe. But most of you understood why I did it, why I had to. So thanks for giving me a place to unload all this without having to smile through it, for reminding me that I wasn't crazy, and for showing me that even the ugliest endings can still lead to something solid. I'm not over everything, but I'm not broken either, and for now, that's enough.